Are you clear that when you move your attention away from thinking, nothing exists?
Apparently I'm not clear on that.
But I mean, I'm asking you, if you move your attention away from thinking, what's there? Thinking creates the world, doesn't it? When you were a child and you got language, word by word, you created this. What's happening is nothing, is consciousness itself, and that's not a thing, and it has no form, and it has no shape. So there's nothing happening. Right? When you think, you're generating what's happening. If I ask you to tell me what's happening, you're going to tell me what you think, aren't you? Right. What else do you have to go by? What an awake person sees is what everybody else sees, but they know what it is, which is nothing. That's what they see. The kingdom of heaven on earth. The kingdom of heaven on earth means that the ordinary, everyday experience that you and I are having is heaven. How's that so? That's what that means, the kingdom of heaven on earth. How's that so? How is it so? But it's always now, and it's always here, and you're always this. Right? So the practice is a practice of reorientation. You're reorienting yourself to come from what's a conceptual existence to a real existence. It's a reorientation. But the practice that we're talking about practicing here is a practice of reorientation. So that if you do the informal practice, which is resting as awareness for brief moments as many times as possible, when you do that, you're reorienting yourself at that time. When you rest as awareness, you're moving from being the thinker of the thoughts, you're moving from being the physical body, you're moving from being the personality, you're moving from having a personal history, you're moving from that to nothing. And the nothing we call this. And the time for nothing is now, always the same, never changes. And what's happening during the time of nothing is this, never changes. It's always this. It's always this, it's always here, and it's always now. That's a reorientation. See, the personality will turn it into an achievement to keep you stuck. Personality will have you think you're not there. I've said this before many different ways. The personality, the thought process will have you think this isn't it. It will have you think this isn't it. Once it has you think this isn't it, and you believe that thought, you're stuck.
That's the problem.
You're stuck, because this is it. In a couple of classes ago, I said, what's your argument against that this is it? What's your argument against that you are the consciousness and that you are experiencing well-being right now? What's your argument against that? You do have an argument against that. If you're not experiencing that, then you are living in a state of mind in which there is an alternative reality, and it argues against this truth. It argues against this. And so that in that class, I said, what's your argument? And she said, it doesn't feel like it. Doesn't feel like it. The mental state argues that you're not experiencing your true nature. The mental state is arguing you're not enlightened. You're not experiencing the truth. It's arguing that. And then if you look at the details, well, why is it so? How do I know I'm not experiencing it, right? Because I have the thought that if I was experiencing it, it would be different, right? But that's how you get stuck, right there. It's not getting rid of anything. That's the secret of success when it comes to being what you are. The awareness that you are is not getting rid of anything. It's not trying to hold on to anything. It's not going anywhere. It didn't come from anywhere. It has no form. It doesn't think about anything. It has no feelings about anything.
It's like a spirit.
It's not like a spirit. It's non-conceptual.
But what gets in the way of that?
Nothing.
If you're looking from the personality...
Yeah, but you see, you have to understand something. When you say what gets in the way of that, you're acting like it's not you. that gets in the way of that. It's something else that gets in the way.
I'm trying to think like someone who is seeking all this. I kind of get all this.
It's a difficult reality to digest because there's nothing to digest. It's a difficult reality to understand because there's nothing to understand. It's a difficult reality to think about because there's nothing to think about. Right? And the state of mind that we live our lives in finds that to be impossible, right?
And that's the problem right there.
Yeah. It finds that to be impossible. But the reason it finds that to be impossible because it thinks it has to be either or. It has to be either this or it has to be something else. And this isn't it, right? This isn't it. So it has to be something else, right? And if it has to be something else, then something has to change. You follow this? If it has to be something else, something has to change, right?
But it's nothing.
Nothing has to change.
Yeah.
Nothing has to change. The kingdom of heaven is on earth. The kingdom of heaven exists in the very experience you're having right now. It's there. The kingdom of heaven is there all the time. It's there right now. Right? But if you think that it has to be either that or the world that I think is the world that appears to me as the world, the conceptual reality that appears to me as the world, my identity, that my self-concept that appears to me to be real, it's got to be either that, or if it's not that, it's got to be something else. If it's got to be something else, then they say that when you're experiencing your true nature, you're experiencing well-being, you're experiencing peace of mind, you're experiencing happiness, and you're experiencing satisfaction. Well, I'm not experiencing that right now, so this isn't it. But you are experiencing that right now, right? But you're not paying attention to that. You're paying attention to what you think about it. You see? Isn't what people want the most is relief from what?
It's like serenity.
Yeah. People want relief from what? What you want relief from is you.
Yeah.
Is you. That's why the teachings say this isn't freedom for you, this is freedom from you. That's what you want relief from. You want relief from being the one that has the feelings you have. You want relief from being the one that thinks the thoughts you think. You want relief from being the one that did the things you did, right? That's what you want relief from, because you hate to think about the things you did. And a lot of your thoughts just make you crazy. And your feelings are troubling, aren't they? That's what you want relief from, right? So what you want more than anything is relief from who you take yourself to be. You want relief from who you're experiencing yourself to be, right? Right? And then that ties right into the statement that Ramana Maharshi made. The most glorious experience you will have in your life, if you have it, is that you don't exist. But that's called death. That's called death. That's what the personality resists more than anything else, is its absence. Its absence. And yet its absence is the possibility. The absence of what you take yourself to be is the possibility. So what does that mean? It means that if I realize my true nature and I stop taking myself to be what I take myself to be, right? So then that's absent. So if that's absent, its absence is the glory, its absence is the freedom, its absence is the fulfillment of the possibility. But then the question is, well, how do I live like this? How do I live like this? Because if I'm absent, right, who's going to live my life? Right? Who's going to drive my car? Who's going to pay my bills if I'm absent? Right? So you can't be absent like that, right? So if the kingdom of heaven is on earth, it means that things being as they are right now without anything changing, right, holds within it the possibility of freedom, holds within it the possibility of heaven on earth without anything changing. So how is that so? How would that work? How would that work? How is that so? How it works is you're training yourself to see that which is not real as not real. That's what you're training yourself to do, to see that which is not real as not real. And if you don't take it to be real, then you can see through it to the reality. That's transcendental. If you don't take it to be real, you can see through that which appears to be real that's not real. You can see through it to the truth. I can see through my thinking activity to what's behind it. What's behind it? Every thought that occurs in my mind is a thought that I am aware of. Yes? Yeah. So what do I pay attention to? Just the thoughts and use those thoughts to determine my orientation and what I am? Or do I train myself to understand thinking cannot produce the truth about who I am? It can't do it. It cannot do it. That's why thinking exists, right? To produce something that's producing something that will be a persona, a mask that you look through, right? A mask that you look through. And you take yourself to be the mask you're looking through. So it's not a mask when you take yourself to be the mask, right? If you take yourself to be the mask, it's not a mask, it's what you are, right? So by training yourself to pay attention moment to moment, right, in such a way where you see through the mask, where you see through the thinking, where you see through the orientation, so that if you can see through it, the effect that it has on you starts to dissipate. Okay? If I can see through my thoughts, and I have a situation with another person where anger comes up, and the anger is producing angry thoughts, telling me the person's dangerous, they're an enemy, I have to be in control, I have to dominate, I can't let them dominate, right? If I can see through all that at the time that's happening and see that behind that lies my awareness, which is always free and never affected by anything, that will allow me not to take the thoughts and the emotions as something that I should take to be real and act on. And when I don't act on them, I don't cause the trouble that I was causing when I did act on them. And if you're dealing with somebody that is not aware of the truth and isn't practicing this and isn't training themselves, right? The effect that has on them is they're left with whatever they're believing about you and whatever they're thinking and however they're behaving, they're left with that, because if somebody brings you provocation, right, but you don't accept the provocation, how's it going to work? That's why when I used to work in the prison where most of the inmates were black, I would make it my business to call them a nigger. Can you imagine how crazy I was? Here I was, the warden of the prison, going into the prison in the chapel, meeting with the inmates, right? Doing consciousness training with the inmates, right? And I would call them niggers. And if they got upset about it, I said, if you get upset about my calling you a nigger, you're proving I'm right. You're proving I'm right. Only a nigger gets upset about being called a nigger. And they laughed. You know, it was like peeling away these layers of misunderstanding so they could see. So they could see the truth, and they could see that they weren't criminals. They were human beings, right? And the agreements that we run this organization by is that if you do something that violates the law, that you get punished. That's how we control you. That's how we control human behavior. It's a necessary thing. Yeah, why would they, once they started to smell the truth, it was like somebody starving. Do you understand? Isn't it the same thing for you? Once you start to get this truth, don't you feel like it's offering you a way out of the prison you're in? Because aren't you in prison too? A lot of those guys that I work with in prison were much freer than people walking on the street. because they knew once they realized, once they saw the reality of the truth, then they were being held in a government-supported monastery. It changed from being a prison to being a monastery. Here I am now. I can practice meditation all day long. I got meals delivered to me. I have a place to stay. I don't have to work. I can practice meditation all day long. Yeah, so what started out being a prison ended up being a monastery, and they were free. You know, when you begin to wake up and experience what you really are, there's nothing to fight about. What are you going to fight about? You're willing to allow everything to be the way it is. So what are you going to fight about? But the thing that I want to emphasize the most is what you want relief from is you. Is you. And relief from you is called death. And your psychology is organized to do anything in your power to avoid that. Isn't it? Yeah, you're a survival machine. And what had us survive from our ancestors when we were walking on the earth and there were dinosaurs and all these crazy animals and everything? What had us end up surviving all that? Thinking had us survive. That's how we got here, is through thinking, and now I'm asking you to give it up. Right? Now I'm asking you to give it up. And the system that you are will fight against giving it up, because the system that you are is certain that without it you'll die. Without it you'll die. You're a survival operation.
Is it giving up thinking or just not taking it as the only thing?
Well, it's not, when I say giving it up, I mean giving up identifying with it. You know, giving up thinking that thinking works is giving up thinking.
Use it like it's a tool.
Yeah,
It's a tool that to be in this world you have to use sometimes.
yeah. But you don't have to consider it to be reality.
Yeah.
That's the difference. That's the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is when you're clear that your thought process is not reality. That thoughts are real thoughts, not the truth. Just real thoughts. Feelings are real feelings, not the truth, right? So you begin to make a distinction that you weren't making before between what's real and what's not real. Right? So if you get in situations that stir up thinking because they're provoking your survival, right? And you don't follow those thoughts and you don't follow those feelings and you notice you're still here, that's a good experience to have, right? That your survival is not a function of your thinking. Your survival is not a function of how you feel. Your survival is a function of what's beyond anything that you can conceive of. And what will happen is going to happen. It's already in the can. It's already in the can. So if you're going to be realistic about your life, right? If you're going to be realistic about your life, you should consider yourself in hospice right now. You should consider yourself in hospice right now because you're all dying, aren't you?
From the moment of birth.
For what?
From the moment of birth, we're headed toward.
That's right. But for us, you know, it's even truer. We're all very close.
We're on the other side of it.
We're all very close, right? So you should be experiencing your life as a hospice. You know, you should be, and what I mean by that, right? Because when you're in hospice, right, the whole setup is for you to experience the last part of your life. That's the whole setup, right? So, but I'm saying this is the last part of your life, right? And the only way that you can escape the suffering that's involved in the end of a human life, right, is to stop identifying yourself as something that you're not. And that's true. It's not a cop. You know what? It's not a cop-out. It's not a game. It's true. The cop-out is what you think is real. The cop-out is what you believe is the truth. Yeah? What is real is freedom from that. Freedom from that. And that's why we talk in the teachings, we talk about die now. Don't wait for the body to die as if that's you. Die now. You could die now and get it over with, right? Because the only death that's going to occur is the death of the physical body. What you are that's aware, right, didn't begin and won't end. It's the truth. It's the truth. But the problem with this truth is that it's so good, isn't it? It's so hard to believe that that could be true. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so hard to believe because what has the agreement is that you're going to die, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's the agreed upon reality, that you're going to die. And it has all the agreement, right? So if you think you're not going to die, if you believe you're not going to die, if you're experiencing that you're not going to die, you're weird. You're weird because everybody knows that's the most common thing. That's the most common, the things you have to deal with in life are you have to pay taxes and die. Everybody knows that, right? So these teachings and these practices say that you can experience a truth that will allow you the consistent relief of the burden of your own death. The consistent relief of the burden of living the life that you've been living as a conditioned character that has these predispositions to be in conflict and to suffer. That's your predisposition, is to be in conflict and suffer. So you can experience complete relief from that, right? But the price of entry of that is you have to die. But the good news is that this death that I'm referring to, right, is the death of something that's not real. It's the easiest possible death you can experience is the death of what you really are, because the death of what you really are, what you take yourself to be, is not real. All you have to do is get that. All you have to do is allow that experience to occur for you, to really be clear that what's going to die here isn't real. What's going to die here never existed in the first place. It always brings me back to that statement by Paul Hederman, you don't have to get out of something you're not in. You don't have to stop being the personality you never were. That's how easy it is. All you have to do is get that. But you see, the thing about it is you have to get that, but you have to get that over and over again. This is what I mean by training yourself to experience the truth. You have to keep getting that over and over again to counter the thought process that has you believe that you are the body and the personality. You have to keep practicing that over and over again, right? You have to keep repeating that over and over again. That's how you got to believe that you are the personality, didn't you? By repeating it over and over again. So you have to repeat it over and over again to get yourself out of it, to allow yourself to experience death. Every time you meditate, allow yourself to experience your death. Moving your attention away from the thought activity. When you move your attention away from the thought activity and there's no thinking which is producing the world and producing you as the personality in the world, then you move your attention away from that to the awareness of the body breathing. The awareness is nothing. It has no form. And it is not the body. That's what the opportunity is when you're meditating, is to experience the truth. Even if it's only momentary, even if it's only momentarily, right? It's still the truth. It's still the truth. And if you practice it consistently and you add to that the informal practice of doing it all day long, every time you have this is the way you should train yourself. Every time you have a thought or a physical sensation that's uncomfortable, use the discomfort as a reminder at that time to reorient yourself. Use the discomfort, use the suffering as a reminder to reorient yourself to the truth. That I'm not who I think I am. I'm not what I think I am. What's happening is not what I think is happening. And if I reorient myself to that truth, even if it's for a moment of resting as awareness, I experience freedom for that moment. And if I experience freedom for that moment, it gives me the power to see through what's not real when I'm not practicing that. Do you understand? It gives me the power to realize that even when I think I'm the body and I think I'm the person, that I'm not. If I can see through that when that's happening, I'm free. Does this make sense? But To practice that has to be done every single moment, every single moment. You have to wake up in the morning and begin the practice. And practice it all day long. Practice it while you're walking. Practice it while you're driving your car. Practice it while you're talking to people. Practice it while you're on the toilet. Practice it while you're eating. That's why I say everything becomes a practice. Everything becomes a practice. Because am I eating, right, or is eating happening? That's the practice. Yeah? Is the body walking, or am I thinking? That's the practice. Yeah? Am I sitting in the car experiencing the world and the car driving, or am I in my head thinking about yesterday and tomorrow? That's the practice. Because it goes back to that saying when they asked the masters, well, what about other people, right? Their answer is there isn't any other people. Don't you get it? If you experience what you are as consciousness, that's it. That's all there is. Everybody you talk to is you. Every place you go is here. That's what I meant earlier. Every place you go is here. Every time you're experiencing is now. And all you're experiencing when it comes to your identity is this. Do you notice that this is not like a person? You know what I mean when I say this? If you turn off your conceptual understanding of what's happening right now, what's happening is this. You get it? And that's reality. It's always the same. It's always this. It's always this. So when you wake up, when you're experiencing the truth and you're with people in your family, or you're with your partner, or with your kids or your parents, right? When you're with them and they're experiencing or not experiencing, when you're with them and they take themselves to be their body or their personality, right? You're seeing through that with them the same way you're seeing through that with yourself. So you don't take them seriously. You don't take their behavior seriously because you're talking to somebody that's dreaming. You're talking to somebody that believes the dream is the truth. They can't help it. They're innocent. They're not doing it on purpose. Right? But if you understand that, right, you're going to get into conflict with somebody about this stuff. They are real. The reality that they are is the same reality that you are. It's just consciousness appearing over there. That's why a lot of teachers say, when we're in a conversation like this, it's consciousness talking to itself. That's actually what's going on. It's consciousness is talking to itself. When you're dealing with other people, it's consciousness talking to itself. If you're on the side of the conversation where you know the truth, then you see through the self-concepts, you see through the thinking and the feelings, you see through all that to the reality of what's actually occurring, which means if everybody is you, then how do you treat them? This is what Love Thy Neighbor is all about.
Kindness.
Yeah. You treat them the way you want to be treated.
So when we do nice things for somebody else, we're really taking care of ourselves.
That's right. That's right. There is nobody else. And the way you treat other people is the way you're treating yourself. That's how you know how you are with yourself. You treat yourself the same way as you treat other people, whether you know it or not. If you're judgmental about them and you're reactive with them, you're judgmental and reactive with yourself. That's why they say, start here. Get this cleaned up. Grow up and then, wake up and then grow up. Get this mess cleaned up first. If this gets cleaned up, right, then you'll be able to see more clearly who you're dealing with. And you'll be able to relate to them in a way that is appropriate. You'll be able to relate to them in a way that is realistic. And that's a practice. Because your mind, when you're dealing with people that you're living with or people that you're close to, right, that you depend on to get along with, right, you have to practice being kind. You have to practice being kind. You have to practice serving them. And it works. When you do that, how does it feel?
Feels good.
Yeah, it feels good. So all you have to do is follow that. You do what feels good. Do what feels right. It feels good because it's true. Yeah, this is the virtue of selfishness. Selfishness is a wonderful thing when you know who you are. You get that? When you know who you are, selfishness is a wonderful thing because you're involved with the reality of the truth of what you are. That's selfishness. You're being selfish. You're concerned about the reality of what you are. But in this case, the reality of what you are is everybody, not just you. It's not just you. That's why what you see in the world right now is a display of ignorance. It's a display of ignorance, that's all. It's not about who the president is. It's not about what party's in charge. It's all a display of ignorance. That's all. That's what's happening. So it doesn't work to think all we have to do is attack some individual because they're the problem. They're the symptom, they're not the problem. The problem is ignorance. If people weren't ignorant, they would know that every other human being is me. Nationality is stupidity. There's no such thing as nationality, especially now where we all live in the same reality called the planet Earth. Right? We can no longer afford to think that there are separate places, right? And if you live over there and I live over here, then you might be a threat to me. That's ignorance. It's just ignorance. But it starts at home. You know, you have to practice this at home.